I now want to invite the chairperson of this session, Professor Dhananjay Singh sir, for his remark. Sir.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's been a sheer pleasure, may I say, and privilege to be here. And so this was destined, as I say, right? Varun, Dr. Varun Gulati has been a friend, and I must say that his very thoughtful presentation and deliberation on various aspects of reality, reality that constitutes Sanskriti, and how it finds manifestation at a level of intellectual and spiritual engagement with it, with diverse examples. And he's quoted several texts, obviously Upanishads, Guru Granth Sahib, of course, that beautiful verse. And I'd like to add a few things, of course, to my perspective. Now we have students here as well, right, in the audience. So sometimes we might think that, well, this is pure philosophy and spiritualism, and therefore one of the ways that and I've been talking about the Indian knowledge systems vis-a-vis the Western knowledge systems, and with all great respect, because we are professors of English after all. We take great pride in some of the great texts that we teach, including W.B. Yeats. I was listening to you and I was reminded of W.B. Yeats's The Unity of Being. How can you know the dancer from the dance, O chestnut tree, the great rooted blossomer? And Yeats was so much influenced by this thought. Why I was referring to students, especially young people, is this that here what is being discussed is not merely, and I shouldn't say merely, but people might think that वो तो spiritual बातें कर रहे हैं और ये इस तरह की चीज़ें लोग कहते हैं ना, because वो consciousness बनाई हुई है हमारे यहाँ कि वो अलग है, हम science की बात करने चाहिए and all that. Now yesterday I was referring to the Austrian-Irish physicist. We all know that Einstein had a conversation with Tagore, a very important conversation. Erwin Schrödinger, who won the Nobel Prize in quantum physics, for all his life he was unable to resolve the basic fundamental riddles of Vedanta philosophy. In fact, he has two essays that he wrote 35 years apart. And then there is a beautiful experience that he writes in one of his essays that he wrote before his death. And in that essay, he talks about an experience that he was sitting on a mountain, a cliff, and he observed the vast arena or panorama of the object, the grand objects that you see. Any experience of nature as divine or nature as sublime, as in Immanuel Kant, the thought that he comes to Schrödinger is this: that this great, beautiful, divine consciousness that you see in front of you, that I'm seeing right now, this was there 1,000 years before. This was there 100 years before. I may not be living after a few years, but someone 100 years ago must have been here, must have had this experience that I'm having today. Somebody 1,000 years before might have the same experience. And then it's a beautiful, almost philosophical essay. He says that I am the person who was here 100 years before, I am the one who was here 1,000 years before, because the feelings that I have is a feeling that person had then, and the person who came 100 years or 5 minutes before. In other words, the self always leaps after supreme consciousness, and supreme consciousness, validated by the energy principle, and then it's talking about physics, is the one that is inseparable from the self that is in me, that is made up of feelings, and the self that lies outside there. We in the English departments for years, especially my generation before me, we think that we have been taught and trained. I'm again referring to what I was discussing yesterday in very clear terms, that this is all humbug. Why? Because fundamentally we have drawn our ideas of self from Descartes. I think, therefore I am. That's the fundamental idea. For the idea of a self, the first enumeration of the idea of the self is in the Brihadanayaka Upanishad. There is a beautiful conversation between Virupaksha and Prajapati. Virupaksha, Indra and Prajapati, and students should be asked to read. In fact, teachers should read. Otherwise, we keep repeating, I think, therefore I am, and we think that many of us, of course, would think that we are great intellectuals doing that. I don't have time for it, obviously, but in the Brihadanayaka Upanishad, you see Indra and Virupaksha. Now, Virupaksha is the leader of the Asuras. Indra is the leader of the Devas. Of course, these are the two vital kind of beings that constitute the human universe. And so they go to Prajapati. I think I'm audible. Am I? Yeah. Yeah. So they go to Prajapati, and the Prajapati who is the progenitor of all beings. And they ask this question, what is self? That's Brihadanayaka Upanishad I'm saying. Indra, of course, as any good teacher, says ki, bhai, jao pehle kuch study karke aao. As we tell our students. But Indra tells them that go and meditate for 32 years and come back. That is an exaggeration, because obviously no student would spend that much time, a day or two. But of course, these are all legends. And they come back and there are a series of questions. Therefore, the first thing that both of them say, that is self that is reflected in water, that's reflected, in any such body that sees me. So therefore, is self the body? And then there is a intellection that if that is self, then the body is diseased, the self is not diseased. And then the next, of course, round of conversation is this, that is self that which I see in a dream? Is self therefore the dreaming subject? Is self the wakeful body, or is self the dreaming subject? Is self the one that I experience in deep dreamless sleep, right? Or is self something else? Now I say this with a great assertiveness, because I'm passionate about thinking in our own traditions. Now when Jacques Lacan critiques Descartes, right? That I am where I think not, right? We don't know. We are stupid. We have been made stupid by an education system, by an ideology. That Brihadanayaka Upanishad, and then 1,000 years later, Nagarjuna, the Buddhist thinker I was referring to in Mool Madhyam Karika, raises the same question. That the self cannot be, the human self cannot be a subject of a discourse, cannot be a part of the structure that is linguistic and intellectual. The self is beyond it. The self is beyond this. In another context, I was talking about language yesterday. The Shabda is not that I speak. Similarly here, the self is beyond this. Now, self can be, all else exists because of self. All else exists. Like your Vedanta, Shankaracharya. In Shankaracharya, you have that khyati, anirvachaniya khyati. So if you are walking and there's darkness, you see a snake before you, you stop, and then you switch on your torch or whatever source of light, and then you find that it's a rope. Now, Shankaracharya asks that what is reality? Is the snake reality or the rope reality? Someone might say, no, the rope is reality. Now, if the rope is reality, the snake was real, so you stopped. So which one of this? Is both the snake and the rope reality? Neither snake and the both reality? Both? So there are so many possibilities. Now these are possibilities of language and logic. The self is beyond this. So self is supreme consciousness. Self is supreme being. They're all great. Now this is not mere, because we think that philosophy is kind of some metaphysics. Schrödinger says that without questioning, without engaging with metaphysics, as Kant has rejected metaphysics, as you know, pointed limitations of metaphysics. Now you cannot engage with the basic questions of physics, which of course delineates in some other way. People have pointed out different comparison with our Sankhya system and modern physics. There is something to open up, and that's why conferences are important. The other question that you raised, of course, was of Rashtra Bharat. Of course, that was very important. And we have been trained to talk about Benedict Anderson, कि nation का ये definition है, रटते चले गए, conferences में बोलते चले गए, है ना? But सोचे नहीं ना अंदर से, क्योंकि problem थी. Because अंदर से सोचेंगे तो भारतीय होंगे तो भाई खतरा है, फिर सेकुलरिज्म में खतरा है, बहुत सारे खतरा आ जाता है, फिर वो भी तो है. Everybody knows about this, है ना? Because you talk about diversity. We are intrinsically diverse people. Of course, there are problems that needs to be addressed, but intrinsically diverse people. Because हमारे यहाँ difference से oneness है. Oneness ऐसा नहीं आता, supreme ऐसे नहीं, difference से oneness है. So और oneness in difference है, difference in oneness है. वो वेदांत में सारे systems में है, इनमें language systems में है. So difference and diversity, of course, is our strength. Raja Rao, I'll just end with this. Raja Rao has a book called Meaning of India. That book was published in 1996. And Raja Rao engages with the question, what is India, of course? वो इंडिया में भी प्रॉब्लम है, अभी तो चल रहा है, इंडिया वर्सेस भारत है ना, वो भी सोचने वाली बात है, वैसे बात सोचने वाली है, that's a political great master stroke. But anyway, we can, that's for another discussion, right? Isn't it? But that people, they may have taken aback by this. But who understand, anyway, that will be problematic to talk more about it. But Raja Rao says that Bharat is not Desh, Bharat is a darshan. That's why he talked about darshan, right? Bharat is darshan, Bharat is vidhi. बोले जी ऐसा है, इमेजिनेटिव है इंडिया, नेशन तो इमेजिनेटिव कंस्ट्रक्ट है. भाई आपका इमेजिनेटिव होगा ना, क्यों? आपका तो 17-18 सेंचुरी में शुरू हुई, वन लैंग्वेज, वन रिलीजन, वन नेशन, ये है ना? यहाँ पे डिफरेंस है, बट हमें तो माइंड हमारा पूरा हाइबरनेशन में कर दिया है. सो इसे दर्शन है. नेशन इज नॉट एन इमेजिनेटिव कंस्ट्रक्ट, इमेजिनेटिव कम्युनिटी है. अरे रोज मिलते हैं भाई, मैं बनारस में हूँ, आज हूँ, एक हफ्ते पहले साउथ में था, बट कोई डिफरेंस नहीं है. नेशन देश एक्सपीरियंस है और दर्शन है, दैट्स व्हाट इट इज. वी एक्सपीरियंस, बट एक्सपीरियंस नॉट मेयरली थ्रू योर माइंड एंड आईज एटसेट्रा, थ्रू अ डिफरेंट, ऑल टुगेदर डिफरेंट फैकल्टी. दैट्स व्हाट इज भारत, राइट? एंड दैट्स इन. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर योर वंडरफुल प्रेजेंटेशन, एंड आई एम श्योर there's lots to think about. There's a lot to change the basic structure, the basic paradigm भी तो वो थोड़ा वो है. paradigm में, by the way, paradigm Thomas Kuhn का, you may know that Thomas Kuhn's structure of scientific revolution से paradigm शब्द आता है. There is a debate that Thomas Kuhn has with this pen, Karl Popper, Logic of Scientific Discovery. Karl Popper gives a concept of falsifiability. Those of you who are interested in research methodology can read this. So falsifiability और paradigm में concept में debate है. Interestingly, Karl Popper was influenced by Indian thought. हम नहीं जानते, हमें पता भी नहीं है कि जूडिथ बटलर कहाँ से आई है. Judith Butler was influenced by Austin speech acts. Austin was influenced by Indian thought. पर हम बोलेंगे अरे तुम फिर शुरू हो गए, खतरे में है बहुत सारी चीज़ें. So what I'm trying to say is this, that we need to rethink. And you think of Akbar Shah, 17th century Akbar Shah का श्रृंगार मंजरी देखिए, हमें पता नहीं है traditions अपने. So I think yes, exactly. Yes. Thank you, Varunji, and thank you for this opportunity again.
Sir, actually you have not chaired the session. You are the speaker who spoke so well. Thank you for that. And as you have told that self is superated or explained it through the conversation taking place between Prajapati, Indra and that person. And then as Sri Aurobindo has also said that first the truth comes to our mental level, then vital level, then psychic level, and then comes the realization of self. It's a gradual process, so we all hope that we should attain that our truth consciousness, which is the real aim of every education or every gyan given by our ancient wisdom. So I extend a very profound gratitude to Dr. Varun Gulati sir and Professor Dhananjay Singh sir for their erudition and for their outstanding style of their deliverance. And dear delegates, participants and everyone, just we have one more lecture after this session. That for that I just want to invite Dr. Sangeeta Jain ma'am. She will take over this last session. This is the last lecture. Okay. Sir, we want that our new speaker, the next speaker should be welcomed by you. We want that, जैसे आपने कहा कि oneness हो, so for this oneness, though he is the part of us, but we want you should be also there along with him. So I request Professor Anurag Dabe, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication from BHU, kindly take your seat on the dais. I request our guest and Indrajit Mishra sir, please welcome our next speaker. Thank you, sir. Varun Gulati, sir. Thank you, Dhananjay Singh, sir. Thank you.